Hi, I'm Morgan Poliquin. I'm the president and CEO of Almadex Minerals. I think we would be described as a prospect generator, and our focus is early stage exploration, creating new assets through early stage prospecting and staking, if we can. And we have the cash and capacity to go ahead and drill these things and try to define them as well.
Morgan, good to see you. It's been a while. I think almost a year and a half, I think. Prospect generation is, I guess, not much understood in the market and certainly not much credit or value given to it, but you're slightly different. You're sitting with 16, 17 million bucks in the bank.
Yes. Now that's through asset sale. We were able to sell a royalty that was derived through that process of prospecting and advancing projects. So I think what, the term prospect generation seems to mean a whole bunch of different things. I think it's born of necessity. And what it seems to be is about how you advance your projects that are not necessarily early stage, but through joint venture and deal making and that sort of thing. And again, I feel that's born of necessity, meaning why would you give the upside if you believe in the discovery potential of your projects? Why would you give that away in a deal? Well, you do it because of, obviously, there's capital is dear, and it's hard to get it for early stage projects. But in our case, we have sufficient capital, and we have something a little different in our own diamond drilling capacity, which reduces the cost of that most expensive and the definitional stage of value, really, in the exploration process, which is drilling, understanding, getting three-dimensional information. So I think what sets us apart potentially is the fact that we generate these ideas, mineral projects that have opportunities for discovery. And we're able, with our current treasury and this capacity I described, to test them ourselves without giving the upside away, unless we want to. Obviously, deal making is a business process.
Okay, so tell us about what are you after? Where are you after it? I think in the past you've seen the fact that there is jurisdictional risk operating in Mexico, for instance, and there has been difficulties in Chile in terms of constitutional change, etc. I noticed that you're now sort of looking in North America as well. So tell me about getting that balance into the portfolio in terms of jurisdictional exposure.
Yeah, I think that's the most critical aspect, particularly when you're at the early stages and there is a potential long time frame in front of you. And we're focused in the Western United States, but we've always been focused in North America. And the geology is very similar. I did my PhD studying specifically the Mexican side of the border, but of course that geology doesn't stop at borders. And what we're doing actually right now in terms of the Western United States is following up a concept that we had identified in 2007, 2008, and it kind of been left there in terms of that potential because we made a discovery and became very discovery focused in 2010. So we're kind of back to our knitting. My dad, who is our chairman, he made a discovery in Nevada in 1972 that wound up being an operating mine, and so it's back to our knitting, and we know how to operate there. But moreover, I think there's big ideas to follow up. Our approach to exploration is sort of big continental scale geologic ideas, and then we hone into the individual locations by extrapolating these big ideas. So we're not sort of project oriented and searching around an existing project. We're trying to really create new opportunities. And our commodity focus is, copper and gold, I would say. But of course, what we're looking at is a technical term, porphyry lithocaps, and the tops of epithermal systems. I did a master's degree studying these clay-altered, often very barren zones of very characteristic in terms of big broad areas of changed rock that is very visible often, but very challenging to explore in traditionally, because very often, while they may be above big mineral deposits and be obscure big mineral deposits, they need to be interpreted very carefully. So we have that technology, and so what we're looking for is areas that have basically been overlooked, either due to the fact that they're hard to decipher, or they've been overlooked, because we're looking at big trends, and so that kind of technology is being employed in other parts of the world. You see it in the Andes, and you see it in Indonesia. And just to digress slightly, there's a big discovery that I think everyone should be made aware of in terms of what we're trying to do, and others, I'm sure, is the Onto discovery, ONTO, that was made by Vale in Indonesia. And it's one of the largest endowments of copper and gold. And it was found after 20 years of exploration in one of these porphyry lithocaps, under 700 meters of barren clay alteration. It's over 1% copper and about a gram gold and billions of tons. So that's the opportunity that we're looking for. We're trying to hit it out of the park in American sports parlance, but I guess cricket, it could be a six. And so how you go about that is trying to find these areas that other people have not explored thoroughly or haven't recognized, and then use this very, very inexpensive early stage technology to bring it to the drill stage.
Put that in layman's language, because you can spend a lot of time trying to find and set yourself up to be able to find properties like this where you can then go and explore. You've got 5-6 drills of your own. So from that side of thing, you've got access to drilling, but you've got to do the work, go through the phases of trying to understand it. That's going to take time. You've got to communicate that to the market with, a phase that just doesn't interest the market, does it? All that kind of heavy lifting that you got to do at the beginning of a process to try and make a discovery. So the money buys you some time. That 16, 17 million bucks is a lot of money. A lot of cash-strapped companies would be very jealous of you at the moment. Do you think that going for that type of project that you're describing, with those types of ideas, is going to be understood by the market, or how can you simplify it so we can actually understand why that is the best use of your money?
I mean, first of all, mineral deposits are sort of singularities in space and time. So very unique conditions have to occur in order to form a big mineral deposit like a porphyry copper gold. And those are the largest endowments. They produce, I think, 60, 70% of the world's copper, increasing amount of the world's gold, 20% or so, and almost all the world's molybdenum. And so these things are huge endowments of mineral wealth. And, it could be that you could have greater odds of looking for a very small oxide heap leach gold deposit that's near surface. But that is not really, at the end of the day, what's going, because the same risk is associated with it in terms of development. And so we believe that there are ideas that are untested because of historical way that mineral exploration was applied. And whilst you're trying to do something that is expensive to do because you're going to be drilling deep holes in these things, we have the mechanism to reduce that risk. And what you're looking out for at the outset is something huge. So you're setting your targets, into the realm of, if we do hit, and I can't give you exact odds for each one of these things, but if you do hit, you're into the stratosphere. And so I think by looking for something that's big in the outset, but also setting up your odds much better by being able to very quickly sieve through things that aren't from this environment. So, for example, in these porphyry lithocaps, you have large areas of alteration, as I described, where the rocks are all changed due to these hot fluids that come off of porphyry. But there's different types of clay. So we're able to sieve out the clay that's not associated with this stuff. And we're also able to define, roughly speaking, where we are in the system, how deep it might be, with very simple early stage exploration. So what we're trying to do right now is set ourselves up with a large portfolio. I think we've announced we have 14 new things that we've staked that enable us, in each case, to do some early stage, essentially, condemnation, where you test the target and you drill some deep holes, and you're either in the environment or you're not. And for relatively low expense, you're able to shoot for the stars, but at the same time not break the bank. And we hope over the course of this generative program to present our shareholders with a number of different chances at that.
Right. Okay. So I'm just loving the amount of analogies or cliches that we're using. So I'm going to throw one back at you. Is it a case of go big or go home? It feels like, but if you're in that game, you've got to be able to kind of point back to, I guess, recent history where you say, look, I appreciate you sticking to your knitting, but you've got to point to the point where you've been successful in the recent past. Is this a completely, in reality, is this a very different model from the one we've seen from you for the last, few years? Because you want to see kind of growth. Geologists are sort of, slightly in danger of getting excited about the rocks, getting excited about the science, and not paying enough attention to what investors care about, which is, how to drive the kind of growth of the market. So I hear what you're saying about what you want to do, but you've got to try and also increase the chance of likelihood of success. And that's either through doing something you've done before successfully, or saying this may be a slightly new model here, but it's going to allow us to do something we haven't done before. And I'm trying to work out where you sit in all of that. Why is it going to be successful?
Yeah. Well, I think obviously the key here is it's not a wild goose chase. And we've done it before. Hopefully, to answer your question, you can't use history to forecast the future exactly, but we did this exact kind of exploration program in the eastern part of Mexico, and I used my PhD research to decipher a belt of rocks that had been under-recognized or not recognized at all. And we found out there was, in fact, 2 belts. And what we were able to do is find 3 deposits in the course of this early-stage exploration program. I think in terms of gold equivalent ounces, they totaled about 8 million. And there was one that was a high sulfidation gold system, which it relates to is that kind of environment's above a porphyry. There was a porphyry system that was in the process of being explored when there was some legal challenges, and a gold silver a vein system. So we know how to decipher where things ought to be. We believe that in the Western United States, you have the best geopolitical terrain in the world to be focused on as a Western company at this time in history. And of course, we could discuss for hours why that might be the case, but we think that is the case. There are certain states that are very permissive and very open for mineral exploration investment, like Nevada. And we think that the infrastructure and the geopolitical framework there goes along with the geologic. Something very interesting is that in Nevada, in the Western United States, there's been a focus on near surface oxide copper and gold deposits. And people have not been looking at deeper environments to explore, despite the fact that in the last 20 years, there's been a huge increase in the number of programs dedicated to looking deeper in, as I say, Indonesia and particularly the Andes. And you can see the string of successes that are out there in doing just that. So the focus has been near surface oxide gold in Nevada, and that's been a tremendously successful area. We don't believe that our expertise is in going and acquiring a project that is already owned by somebody else and looking for additional mineralization around it. That's not our expertise. Our expertise is identifying, like we did in Mexico, areas that have the potential for something as yet undiscovered. And what I believe the situation is in the Western United States, and I think 2 of our projects kind of highlight that, is that there's these large areas of alteration that have only, if explored at all, have been explored only superficially. And in this case, I mean literally near surface exploration. And so we can see the success that, say, NGEX has had in the Andes at very in a very remote area, exploring these deep these alteration zones more deeply. And I think in the Western United States, you have the extra exciting layer is that you're not at 5,000 meters in the Andes. You're on Main Street in terms of infrastructure. So what we bring to the table is not only the ability to identify these belts and where they might go outside of the current geologic lexicon, but we also have the capacity to decipher them very rapidly. And I could get into the instrumentation and the ability to do that. But Resolution is a fabulous example of a huge discovery in the Western United States beneath, I believe, a 50-year-old mine. And it's, 3 billion tons of 1.5% copper? And, Rio and BHP, formerly Magma, made this discovery, I'm going to say 20 years ago. But this is the kind of environment that we're focused on and the opportunity that exists.
Right. Okay. So you're after copper and gold, which obviously are on a bit of a run at the moment in terms of the price. But it's going to be a while before that flows down into the equities. Well, unless you're a producer, of course, it may do. It seems to be. But developers, explorers, prospect generators, it's not going to do the heavy lifting for you in terms of that momentum play. So, can you point me to the things that you think you're going to be doing, which are of real value, that can be valued by investors, should be valued by investors, going to lift you up from this whatever $15 million market cap? You're valued at cash at the moment. What are you pointing to that you're going to be doing, and why that's going to be the right thing to do, if you don't mind, just really kind of clearly?
Yeah. Well, I think what we're going to do is take an early stage portfolio that I've just created, if you like, and be very aggressively and inexpensively on each individual property, advancing them to the drill stage, while at the same time drilling at least one of these properties that we have one called Paradise, where we've defined a very concise, if you like, a very discrete anomaly that must be drilled, where we have the right geochemistry and the right minerals that tell us there is a porphyry, driving this alteration. And we don't know the depth, we don't know the grade, and we don't know if it's faulted off and all those risks that come with, but we've basically got the environment and we've got the geochem, and it has to be drilled. And so what we can do is roll in a diamond drill and a drill that, 800 meter potentially depth hole, in-house, inexpensively, without a massive, expensive drill contract. So, again, the value proposition is we are shooting for the stars, but we think that's the right thing to do. We're not going to spend the money on trying to see if we can expand a deposit that isn't currently in production for a variety of reasons. That's real heavy lifting in exploration. We're putting ourselves in a position where our shareholders could see a basically zero value exploration project go from zero, which is where it should be before you have a discovery, let's be honest, into something very tangible that we can, if we don't hit immediately, we would hope that we would have a very strong confirmation of that we're in the right kind of environment and system, and perhaps a vector to where we should drill next. And I believe that despite the valuations that we're seeing in the market, you can see what happened to First Quantum in Panama and the challenge geopolitically, which you touched upon. I think having a porphyry prospect that is confirmed as a porphyry prospect, perhaps through a drill hole that hasn't had massive success, a discovery, but yet defines the environment. That's the kind of situation where I think big partners that are keen to find these projects in a safe jurisdiction will be very interested in.
Okay, so it's interesting. There's the kind of geological mapping and geophysics and geochemistry and permitting, and then finding creating anomalies and targets, identifying targets that you can drill. That's the kind of cheaper end of the scale. There's it's kind of the grunt work, but it allows you to be more successful with the drill bit. You've got this big chunk of money which you're going to drill with your own drills. So I guess in a meaningful way, whatever your market cap, whatever the kind of trading on your stock at the moment, it doesn't matter for a while, but it soon will. So how do you kind of drive these kind of cash creation moments, these exits for you, whether in terms of sales or options or JVs or even spin outs? Because those are the things that are going to get you noticed in terms of your portfolio, in terms of this these number of targets, number of projects that you have on the go, whilst you presumably focus on something that you may want to take a little bit further down the line yourselves. I mean, again, how do you get that kind of balance, say over the next 12 months? Of, again, coming back to that, I want to see intelligent use of capital. I want to actually see it drive the share price, but I appreciate you don't have to rush towards that point and create a kind of false narrative, as it were.
Yeah, well, I hope I can answer that without being sounding obtuse. But what I would say is that the projects that we've staked, we've already pre-selected for, almost like their genome. So these porphyry deposits are like they're singularities in time and space. So there's only certain. So if you find the right kind of minerals, and we have an instrument called a TerraSpec, which is it's $75,000 US. It's not like $100 million machine that goes ping. But what it does is it tells you the mineralogy and using infrared absorbance. And you hold a rock up to it, and it will tell you if you have porphyry and diaspore and sodium-rich alunite, which are three minerals that you find in these clay alteration zones, for example, that tell you have a high-temperature fluid pathway to a potential copper porphyry. It's not just some clay alteration that you will waste your money doing a whole bunch of soil samples over, that you will waste your money doing a bunch of geophysics over, because those two things are very expensive. The average soil sample is about $50 US to analyze and probably about $20 US to collect. And you might take thousands over a property. So quickly you can see you're into hundreds of thousands of dollars of wasted effort and cash because you're in the wrong genome, you're in the wrong environment. So what we're able to do is go and look at hundreds of prospects very quickly and inexpensively, meaning two guys in a Jeep, in a Land Rover, or we have pickup trucks, and you go and you take a whole bunch of rock samples, and in the evening hold them up to this machine that you already possess, and you've typecast the environment that you're in, and it tells you whether you should keep it or not. So we've already pre-selected these for their potential to host the type of mineral deposit we're looking for. And we're able to furthermore discern at what level of erosion we're at, meaning how distant we might be from it and how to approach it. So all that comes with literally, I would say, thousands of dollars of investment. The big cost in the United States is staking. Staking is unbelievably expensive. So you acquire the ground and then you focus. And so very quickly we can bring these to the drill stage or get rid of them. And I think once you've defined, that, hey, this is a porphyry and we've got a high temperature conduit and it's here and we should drill here. I don't know what the odds are. There's all kinds of odds that are floated around, and I'm very cautious about, trying to suggest that there's 1 in X chance of this, but you're already in the environment. And furthermore, from the soil samples you would subsequently take and the rock samples that you take, that this is got metal in it. And so now you put yourself in a very unique situation. You don't know the depth precisely because nature's not like that, but you're above a porphyry. And you know that porphyries are the biggest endowment of copper and gold in the world as a deposit type, as a genome. And now you're going to drill it. And what you wouldn't do as a junior normally, if you didn't have the cash and you didn't have the drills, is you would be looking at, to get a contract in the Western US, you might be talking about $1 million to go and drill this. And you'd be sort of like, well, hey, I've got a target, and you'd be searching around, casting about for a partner. And in the past, that was us. In the past, we would be trying to have 15 or so joint ventures, which at one point I had 15 or 20, I think, in 15 years ago or something like that, of these things at the same time. And they're very difficult to manage, all those deals, but at least you're managing your capital. And so in our case, I think we can still do both. If we are able to be successful and hit on one of these things, I think the rest of the portfolio will be of great interest. But at the same time, juniors will be able to finance in this better metal price environment, and they'll be looking for projects. And I'm not opposed to doing option agreements. But my general view about, again, this prospect generation nomenclature is that, why, if you believe in your projects, if you believe there's potential for discovery, why would you do a deal if you have the capital to test it yourself? And of course, if the answer in our case, well, we have more deals, we have more things than we can test ourselves in a given period of time. So let's put more irons in the fire. So that's a good answer. But ultimately, if you have a great target, and let's be clear, sometimes the best targets are not where the discoveries are made. Onto is a classic example where they drilled was quite barren, and yet it was the best. It was the best result. So that's the nature of exploration. But you've got to take your shots, and you're not going to discover anything if you don't drill. And like it or not, our value proposition is the early of the exploration pipeline, or whatever it might be called. We are early stage focused. We're trying to generate new ideas, and that's where I think our sweet spot is, as opposed to going and finding an advanced project and trying to develop it and make it better.
Right. Okay. So you're looking to kill targets as quickly as possible. If you don't think they're up to it, get it. Can you just talk to me about? And I appreciate what you're also saying with regards to the kind of, if you got something good, why would you option it out? But there's some point at which you guys check out, because you know what you are. You're prospect generators, explorers, right? So I suspect it'd be quite interesting to understand. Well, I'm sure you'll tell the market at that point, but we've got to get there first. So you got cash, you got some securities, and you got some NSRs, right? So there's a lot going on there in terms of the cash component that keeps you going for a while. In terms of the securities, what are you sitting on at the moment?
I think at the last financials, they were valued at over $1 million, or around $1 million Canadian. Right. We also have something that, we're not, because it's a legacy project, we're not focused on, but it's potentially near development stage. We've got a zinc silver project in Yukon, southern Yukon, that is got a 43-101 resource on it. That's, I think, a very interesting project, and that's not anything we're going to focus on because we're not developers, but it's a legacy asset that's indicative of the kind of it just adds to the portfolio. So I would imagine when zinc prices turn around, they'll be interested in these kinds of things. So we have other things that we could potentially monetize, as it were. But our focus is obviously new discovery, and that's where energy will be devoted. And really, if we were to have the good fortune of making a nice new discovery, really we would seek to find either a developer, or a major company to take it on from there. We'd like to capture that discovery valuation, but taking it further through all the perils of development and is not our focus. Okay,
I guess what I was trying to get to is, like, over and above the cash, there's some value to some of the securities that you hold today, and potentially some value on the NSRs that you hold today if you need to, but it doesn't sound like you're going to need to anytime soon. That's fair to say, right?
Yeah, all the NSRs, are early stage, or they're not producing. There's no cash flow out of them, to be clear. No. But yeah,
I understand that. No, but in terms of if you needed to sell the NSRs themselves, people do buy those things occasionally, right?
Sure. Right. And we did sell an NSR for I think it was $10 million a couple of years ago for a project that did go into production, a gold project in BC. Yeah.
Okay. So, right, I think you've been clear with what you are and what you are not. What are we looking forward to this year? From what can we expect you be talking about in the market?
Yeah, so we'll be talking about the early stage projects that we've recently generated, and we hope to be adding to that portfolio this year. But the big theme is discussing the advancement of those projects, discussing how we're very hopeful that a number of them will advance to drill targeting stage, drill decision stage. And they're brand new to us, so we'll be taking them from the staking stage right through to defining targets, hopefully. But on the other hand, there'll be at least one of them we plan to drill, and that could be quite soon if we can get all our ducks in line, permitting and logistics and so on and so forth. But that one is called our Paradise project, which is in Nevada. And as I said before, we have a very nice, well-defined target that I believe is indicative of the environment that I've described that we're looking for.
Okay, well, look, appreciate the update, Morgan. I mean, like I said, it's been a while, but obviously, quite a lot seems to have changed and evolved since then. And obviously, congrats on sort of building up the cash reserve to be able to do what you want to do. Now you just got to go and execute. The easy bit, right?
Well, that's it. It's an exciting opportunity, really, and we're very grateful to have that opportunity. I think exploration is an unusual thing. I mean, it's a bit. You're driven by two things, if I may add. On the one hand, we went looking in an area where nobody else was looking in eastern Mexico for a number of years, and there's two motivations. One is, and the key you want to keep focusing on, and of course we've got shareholders, and if you've been pressing me on, is how are you going to create value, and we're extremely sensitive to that. But you have to be driven by curiosity and excitement and the audacity to believe that you are going to find something. Otherwise, you're not. But on the other hand, you're driven by fear, and fear of looking stupid is a big thing amongst geologists. What if everyone thinks what I'm doing is dumb? And I think that creates bad decisions, because I think people are more focused on closology and having affirmation. So you have to balance, because there's real legitimate fears out there. You don't want to run out of money, and you don't want to waste your time, and you don't want to fall in love with a project. But I think the best discoveries have always been made with that curiosity and audacity driving things. And so we hope to have that balance. And we're doing something that, let's be clear. We're looking for a large copper gold deposit that is as yet undiscovered in the Western United States. And that might seem like a tall order. And it is, but it's obviously that's what we do. And it's quite exciting to have that opportunity.